How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Kuf Yud Ches, Daf 118 of Masechta BavaKama. Friends. Yo friends. Yo friends. Yo friends. What? Oh, what do you want me to tell you? I don't know. I think I'm kind of tired, but I'm not really sure. I was traveling today, and then so I don't know. It's 8 at night, which is way later than I usually record. But I also just passed out for an hour, so hopefully I'll be all right. Where are we? Okay, so we got a shtickle work to do on Daf Kuf Yud Zayin Amud Beis. All right, so I guess we'll do it, and then let's just do it. Okay, Daf Kuf Yud Zayin Amud Beis at the Mishnah. Says the Mishnah. Shatfanar Amla Reishach Lefanecho. All right. Okay, so Shimon steals a field from Reuven, and what was the previous thing? Okay, fine, got it. Okay, so Shimon steals a field from Reuven. Yeah, I did this whole. I reviewed this stuff on like different flights and things. Not learned it, but reviewed it. Travel's like a whole thing. Babylon Talmud. You got to figure out what I need to learn on the flights. So if Shimon steals Reuven's field, and then the field gets washed away from a river, what if the power washers wash it away? What if Shimon steals Reuven's field and then the power washers come and they wash away the field? What about that? But we're not talking about that now. We're talking about a river. A river overflowed or something and washed away the field. All right. So Shimon says to Reuven, all right, Reuven, you can have your field back. Okay, meaning Shimon's not responsible for the fact that the field is ruined now. Shimon just says to Reuven, like, hey, Reuven, here's your field. It's all yours. Okay. Says the Gemara Tanur, the Rabbi says, Agozel Sadeh Mechaveru. Somebody who steals a field from his friend, V'shatfa Nohar, and it gets flooded by a river. Chayv Lamed Lo Sadeh Acher. Well, then Shimon's responsible. Shimon, unlike what we just said, according to the BavaKama in this brisa, Shimon, right? Chayv Lamed Lo Sadeh Acher. Shimon needs to replace the field if he stole Reuven's field and it got ruined in a flood. So Shimon needs to provide a replacement field. Divrei Balaz, that's Rabbi Balaz's opinion. The Chacham say, Omelo Harei Shelchu Lefanecha. Shimon says to Reuven, hey Reuven, you can have your field back. But my kamiflige, what's the machlokes? Rabbi Balaz Dorash Ribuye Umiute. Ho. So the machlokes between Rabbi Balaz and the Chacham is a process machlokes. That do we approach this as a ribuy and a miut, or do we approach it as a klal ufrad uchlal? Who could tell me? We've seen this in the past. Who could tell me what the difference between ribuye umiute is versus klale ufrate? What's the difference? So, a ribuy umiut uribuy is that okay? So if you have psukim, right, and first you have like a general rule followed by a specific rule followed by a general rule again, right? So there's a difference between if we're going to approach that as ribuy umiut for ribuy or a klal ufrad uchlal. The difference is, okay, so the way that a ribuy would work is that the ribuy comes, the first generalization comes to include everything. The miut comes to exclude everything? I think so. No. What? No. I think the mi'ut then comes to say, to limit it to only things that are similar to it. I think that's pshat. I think that's correct. And then the mi'ut comes to, right, so you have the general kind of rule, which would include everything. The mi'ut would then come to limit the general rule to only things that are similar to it. And then the second riboy comes to say, no, actually, it should include absolutely everything. Well, then what was the role of the mi'ut? To just exclude one thing. So riboy umiut riboy basically includes absolutely everything, with the exception of there'll just be one specific thing that is excluded. That is riboy umiut v'riboy. A klal ufrat uchlal is that the first general rule will include everything, followed by a prat, a specific, which then limits it entirely to just that one thing. Right? No, right, so it's not the general rule anymore, it doesn't apply to everything anymore, it only applies to the specific. And then you have the second klal to say, to come and to open it up again, but only to things that are similar to that specific, to the prat, to the specific thing. So the difference between riboy umiut v'riboy is that riboy umiut v'riboy is that it includes absolutely everything except for one thing, whereas klal ufrat uchlal includes all things that are similar to the prat. Okay? Fine. So now, where am I? So BavaKama, what is the machlokes between Rabbi Elazar and the Chachamim? Rabbi Elazar does ribuye umiute. So Rabbi Elazar dashes ribuye umiute. V'kichesh ba'amito, when it says in the context of gzela and denying it, that he denies ba'amito, okay, he denies his friend and denies all kinds of thefts. Ribuy, that includes everything. B'pikorin mi'et. And then it says a pikorin, a specific kind of theft, a deposit. And then it says kol asher yushava olav lashoker, that anything that he will swear falsely about, chazav v'riba, which is then a second ribuy. Riba umi'et v'riba, so riba umi'et v'ribuy. Riba hakol. So it comes to include absolutely everything. Umay Rabbi kol mile. It includes all kinds of thefts, including a field. Umay mi'et. So then what's excluded, right? So what was the role of the mi'ut over there when it says bipikorin? What, right? So if we're saying that includes everything, so what's excluded? Mi'et shtaris, to the exclusion of shtaris. Okay, you can't steal a document, right? A shtar, right? If you have a document that says that Shimon owes $1,000 and you steal that, Shimon owes, whatever, Reuben owes Shimon $1,000, whatever, and he steals that document, so that would not be considered theft. Okay. So according to Rabbi Elazar, it includes absolutely everything, just not documents, but it would include a field. And if you steal a field, you're responsible for it. If the field then gets flooded and ruined, so you have to replace it. According to Rabbi Elazar, whereas the rabbis darshan klal ufrat. V'kichesh klal, okay, when it says kichesh, that's a klal. B'pikodin prat. Omikol, and then the omikol asher yishava olav lashaka, etc. Chazav v'cholol was then a second klal. Klal ufrat uchlal. So now when you have a klal ufrat uchlal, yatadon elo ke'ena prat. So then we're including things that are similar to the prat, which is a pikorin. Maha prat davar mitalto v'gufo momen. Just like a pikorin is something that's movable, it's metaltolit. And also v'gufo momon, it itself has value. Right? A deposit is something that has value. It's an item that has value, as opposed to something like a document, for example. A document itself It's just a piece of paper. It itself doesn't have value. It can be exchanged for value, right? So we're saying that a pikadon, the characteristics of a pikadon are that they are metaltalin as opposed to karka, and they themselves have value. Afkol davar mitaltal v'gufo mammon. So included in these thefts are things that are movable and they themselves have value. Yotzu karkois, to the exclusion of properties, she'ein mitaltalin, which are not movable. Yotzu avodim, and we also exclude avodim, she'ukshil karkos, who are compared to karkos. Okay, so therefore also wouldn't be theft by avodim. Yotzu shtaris, into the exclusion of documents, shafalpisha mitaltalin, that even though they're movable, ein gufon mammon, they themselves don't have value, rather they're exchanged for value. Okay? So there you have it. So according to Rabbi Elazar, a field is included in theft, and you can steal a field, and therefore you would be responsible to replace it if it gets ruined. Shimon would be responsible to replace it if it gets ruined. Whereas the Chacham say that fields are excluded from theft, and therefore technically Shimon didn't actually steal Reuven's field. It's Reuven's field, and therefore Shimon says here, take it. And that which we learn in a braysa, gozel as apare, somebody who steals a pare, vishot fanar, and then it gets washed away by a river. Chayv lahamid lo pare diver Belazar. So Belazar says that so if Shimon steals the pare, so Shimon needs to replace the pare. After all, Belazar includes absolutely everything, just not shtaris. But interestingly, the Chacham say, Shimon just says here, take back your cow, which is interesting because Chacham had said that a cow is metaltalin, right? I would think that there is theft there. Why is he saying wait, what? Right, exactly. Should be responsible. Okay. So wait, sorry. Let me just make sure my brain is working. Right. Oh gosh, I hope that I hope my brain is still working. I think maybe what I said is correct. Right. Meaning, so according to Chacham, there should be theft by a cow, and yet we're just saying So Hasam b'mai komifle. So what is the machlokas over there? Omar Papa says Papa Hasam. Wait, what are we talking about? Hasam my komifle. So my Papa Hasam b'mai askina. What are we talking about over there? Kigon shegozel sade me chaver. Well, that's talking about a scenario where Shimon stole a field from Reuven, and the Chacham would say that there's no gezela when it comes to the field. And there was a cow on the field, and since he wasn't kona the field, he also wasn't kona the cow with the field, so there wasn't a kidney on the pare, v'shat fanar, and then the river washed it away. The Rabbi Elazar at the time, maybe Rabbanon at the time, that Rabbi Elazar is consistent with his reasoning, which is that there's theft when it comes to the property, as well as the cow that's on the property, and therefore he's responsible for it. Shimon's responsible for it. According to the Chacham, however, there's no theft when it comes to the field, so he didn't steal the field, nor did he steal the cow that was on it, and therefore he says, here, take it back. Okay, fine. Wow, getting shtickle tired. But alright, what do you want me to tell you? Babylon Talmud must go on. Hopefully as long as my brain is functional enough, you can go weiter. I hope it's still functional enough. I was also hoping that this daf wouldn't be so long, but now that I'm looking at it, it's 15 minutes and we're just getting up to today's daf. Oy vavoy. This is going to be, all these dafs end up being long. But alright, let's go weiter. Says the Mishnah, Agozel es chavero, a fellow who steals from his friend. Okay, so now he's got his friend's item. Oshe lava menu, or he borrowed from him. Or he borrowed, loaned from him. Oh, shehifkid lo, or his friend deposited something with him. So in all these scenarios, right? So let's say we're talking about Ruvain, right? So Ruvain has Shimon's item, right? Either because he stole it from Shimon, or Shimon lent it to him, or right, loaned him like money, or Shimon deposited something by him. But in all of these scenarios, Ruvain has something of Shimon's. So if it's by Yishuv, if it's in the town, in the neighborhood, lo yachzir lo bamidbar, Reuben should not return it to Shimon in the desert, right? Meaning, if in the neighborhood Shimon gave something to Reuven, so Reuven should not in the middle of the desert go and return it to Shimon. He should return it to Shimon in the neighborhood. Almanas lotzes bamidbar yachzir lo bamidbar. But if they make a condition, right? If Shimon lent Reuven money under the condition that it that it get paid back to him in the desert, so then Yachzir lo bamidbar, return it to him in the desert. All right. Says the Gemara, V'raminu, we have a contradiction. Milveh mishtalemes b'chol makom, that a loan can be repaid anywhere, seemingly even in the desert. Avedo fikoden ein mishtalmin ele b'mkomen, whereas a lost object or a deposit, those are only paid back in the place where they were lost or deposited. So Amar Abaye says, this is what it's saying. Milve nitna litova b'chol makom. No, it means that a loan can be requested to be paid back in any place, right? That if Shimon lends $1,000 to Reuven, so then Shimon can decide where it should be paid back. It doesn't have to be paid back in the place where it was lent. Aveda, when it comes to a lost object, right? So Shimon loses something and Reuven finds it. Ufikadin, or Shimon deposits something by Reuven, lo nitnu litov el b'mkomon. Well, then they can only be requested to be paid back in their in the place that it was lost or lent or deposited. Amanas lotzes by midbar, but now Babylon. Oh wow, I totally missed the pause there. So sorry. All right. So now if the condition was, I'm gonna lend you this money and you'll pay me back in the desert, so then you can get paid back in the desert. Pshita, that's obvious. Lo tzricha, it's needed. The amale le'ave hay pikodin gabach. The onula midbar nafikno. Well, it's talking about a scenario where Shimon says to Reuven, "Hey, Reuven, can you watch this item of mine because I need to go out to the desert?" And Reuven says, "Oh, take." I also need to go out to the desert. And if I want to give it back to you when I'm in the desert too, so I can give it back to you there. And then Shimon's like, yeah, all right, no big deal. So in that case, so it's not like a specific condition that Reuven Davka is going to give it back in the desert, but it's like Shimon knows that Reuven's also going out to the desert, and that he may be paid back there, and even so, Shimon proceeded, so it can be paid back in that scenario in the desert. Ha'omel ha'chavero gzalticho. So if Shimon, I don't know, sure. Shimon says to Reuven, gzalticho, I have stolen from you. Wait, but we've been doing it the opposite, right? Wait, who's doing the stealing? Shimon's? I don't remember who's stealing. Oh, I'm getting tired. Chebe, I think what my plan is going to be, I'll tell you. I think what I'm going to do is, I think I'm going to do this Mishnah and the accompanying Gemara. Then I think I'm going to pause, pass out, and then pick up from here tomorrow morning. I think maybe that's what I'm going to do. So, Amar lachaver gzalticho. I don't know. So let's say Reuven says to Shimon, Shimon, I have stolen from you. Hilvisani, or you have loaned me money. Hifkadto etzli, or you have deposited something by me. Veni yodeh mechazarti lecha im lo echazarti lecha. But I don't remember if I've returned it to you. Chayiv l'shalem, so Reuven needs to pay Shimon. Aval im amarlo, but if Reuven says to Shimon, Ein yodea im gzalticha, I don't know if I stole from you, im ilvisani, or if you loaned me money, or if kadto etzli, or if you deposited anything by me. Potter mi l'shalem. So then Reuven is potter to pay Shimon. Says the Gemara, Itmar, we stated, Mana li biyadcha. Shimon says to Reuven, Reuven, you owe me $1,000. V'ala Omer, Reuven says, Eini yodea, I don't know. Rav Huna, Rav Yehuda Omer chayiv. So Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda say that Reuven is chayiv to pay Shimon. Rav Nachman Rav Yochanan Amrei Potter, whereas Rav Nachman and Rav Yochanan say Reuven does not need to pay Shimon. Rav Huna Rav Yehuda Amrei chayiv. Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda say he's chayiv to pay Shimon. Bari v'shema, bari adif. That if you have a bari and a shema, Shimon is saying, you owe me money. You know, he's pretty confident about that. Reuven is responding with, I don't know. So, bari v'shema, a certain thing versus an uncertain thing. So, the certain thing is going to be stronger. Bari adif. And therefore, Shimon's claim is stronger, and Reuven needs to pay back Shimon. Rav Nachman Rav Yechanan Amri Potter, Rav Nachman say no. Rav Nachman and Yechanan say that Reuven does not need to pay back Shimon because Uki Mamonu b'cheskas mari. Keep the money where it is. Kilu, if Reuven is saying he's not sure, so then just don't do anything. Tanamilo Tanam Mishnah Aval im Omer lo eni yodea imil visani Potter. So we said in the Seifa that I don't know if you have lent to me, if you have loaned me any money, Potter. So then he is Potter echida. I mean, what's the scenario? If we're saying that he's Potter because Shimon did not make a claim to Reuven, right? If we're saying that we are not talking about where Shimon says to Reuven, Reuven, you owe me money, and Reuven says, I don't know, right? Because meaning the scenario we are discussing is where is punkt that. Shimon says to Reuven, Reuven, you owe me money, and Reuven says, I don't know. The question is when the Mishnah says, Avalim Amr lo eni odeya, so he's potter. So if we're saying that is not talking about where Shimon had said, hey Reuven, you owe me money, so then Reisha nami to lo katava le. So then that must mean that the Reisha also is talking about where Shimon did not make that claim. Shimon did not come to Reuven and say, Reuven, you owe me money. Well, then am I chayiv? Well, then why in the Reisha would Reuven be chayiv? Right? It says, what does the Mishnah say? So in the Reisha we say that when Reuven says, yes, you loaned me money, but I don't remember if I paid you back. If we're saying that that's talking about a scenario where Shimon did not first say, hey, you owe me money, so then why is he chayiv? So the katavale rather must be talking about where Shimon did say, hey Reuven, you owe me money. And we're saying that he's chayiv. Vikatani Sefer, and it says in the Sefer, Potter, Mila Shalim. That in a scenario where Shimon says to Reuven, Reuven, you owe me money, and Reuven says, I'm not sure. So we're saying that he's Potter Mila Shalim, so it's a kasha on Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda who say chayiv. Lo la'olam de lo katavale. No, really it's talking about where Shimon didn't say anything. Okay, so then why in the Reisha is he chayiv? The Reisha bebalotze sidei shamayim. And in the Reisha, when he says that he's chayiv, it's talking about when he doesn't need to pay back, but he wants to do it anyways. That if Reuben says, look, you lent me money, but I don't remember if I paid you back. So even though he doesn't need to pay him back, but if he wants to do, just in case, so he can. Itmanami is also stated that in a scenario where you don't technically need to pay back, you can pay back if you want to be Yotzei Dei Shemaim. That if Shimon says to Reuven, you owe me money, and Reuven says, I don't know. So now, Rabbi Yochanan had earlier said that in that case, he would be potter, but chayiv b'bo lotzei sidei shemaim. He's chayiv if he wants to be yotzei dei shemaim. I think I'm going to stop here just because we still have a lot more to do, and I'm like kind of tired. I'm just nervous that I'm not going to be able to do it properly. I'm also nervous that tomorrow I'm going to have a ton of Babylon Talmud to record, but I think I'd rather do that when my brain is working better, because this would not be pleasant for anybody, I think. So I think that's what I'm going to do. Alright, I'm back. And it's the next morning. Kind of. No, definitely. Definitely the next morning. And I have coffee. And we're going to go weiter. We got a lot to do now. We got to wrap up today's daf, which I don't know how long it's going to take. I feel like it's going to take a while. Which is why I went to sleep last night. I was so tired. And then after this, I got to record the next daf, which is the last daf of BavaKama. Anyways, let's do it. It says in the Mishnah, "Agonev tolet min ha'eder v'echziro." Oof, chaver, this is why I went to sleep. This is gonna be a 4-way machlekes. I have to. I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm exactly keeping it down per se, but there might be people sleeping. What time is it? I don't know what time it is. Maybe like 6:30 in the morning. Some people sleep, apparently, at 6:30. Not me. I can't. When's the last time I was asleep at 6:30? I have no clue. Alright, let's do it. Okay, I'm going to tell him in a Eider. So somebody who steals a sheep from its friends, Vechziro, and then the flock, you know what I mean? And then he returns it. Okay. Very nice. Vameso nignov, and then the sheep died. What's a good name for a sheep? Have we been through this? A good name for a sheep. I don't know. What's a good name for a sheep? I don't know. Sheepy? Okay, sheepy. That's a good name. So I'm going to tell him in an Eider. So somebody steals sheepy from the flock, okay? Vechziro, and then the guy is the guy who stole sheepy. So then the guy, what's this? It's that, maybe somebody's moving around. Someone's moving, there's movement here. There's movement. Alright. Hopefully we won't have any visitors. Any okay, we gotta go weiter. Come on. So I'm going to tell him in Aida, so somebody who steals sheepy from the flock, and then the guy, so the guy who stole sheepy from the flock, the guy he returns it. Vameso nignov, and then sheepy dies or gets stolen. Okay, Chai b'achar yuso. So the guy is still responsible. Okay, so he stole sheepy. Returns sheepy dies or gets stolen, the guy is chayiv. You got it? Lo yadu bailim. Where am I? Okay, so lo yadu bailim lo b'gnevaso v'lo v'chaziroso umanu esatzon v'shlemahi potter. Now, if the if the owner of the flock was unaware that sheepy went missing, was unaware that sheepy went missing and that sheepy was returned, umanu esatzon, and the owner, did a roll call, counted up all of the sheep, vishlemahi, and they're all there, potter. So then the guy is going to be potter. Okay, so now we're gonna see in the Gemara a 4-way machlokas about the responsibility of the guy to the owner when he steals sheepy coffee. He's like my 4th coffee of the day, and we said it's 6:30 in the morning? You do the math. Alright. Says the Gemara, Omer Rav, says Rav, Ladas tzorich das, shelo ladas, minyan poter. Push through the mush. I reviewed this on the plane yesterday, but that's alright. So, says Rab, Ladas tzarich das. So if when the guy steals sheepy, the owner is aware that sheepy has gone missing, well then it is not enough for the guy to simply return sheepy and rely upon the owner counting the flock and to acknowledge that sheepy is back. No, he would have to walk up to the owner and be like, yo, owner guy, I know you realize that sheepy went missing. I stole sheepy, but I returned sheepy. So if the owner is aware that sheepy went missing, the guy needs to tell the owner about what happened, what he did. So again, Amar Rav, says Rav, Ladas tzarich das. If the owner was aware that sheepy went missing, then the guy needs to tell the owner what happened. Shelo ladas, if the owner never realized, was never aware that sheepy was gone, minyan poter, well then it's enough that when the owner does a roll call and counts how many sheep he has and they're all there, then the guy is now off the hook. The owner has done roll call, he sees that all is well. If anything at this point happens to sheepy, the guy is off the hook. And when the Mishnah says that when the owner counts the sheep, does a roll call, and all sheep are present, are accounted for, then the guy is off the hook. That's talking about when Haseifa is talking about when the owner was unaware that sheepy had gone missing in the first place. Now, but if the owner was aware that sheepy had gone missing, so then the guy would have to, go up to the owner and be like, yo, I had stolen sheepy, but I've now returned sheepy. 1 second, I'm going to sip a shtickle more coffee. Okay. Ushmuel Amar, says Shmuel, Bein ladas, bein shelo ladas, that awareness of the owner accounts for nothing. Says Shmuel that the owner's awareness counts for, makes no difference. Bein ladas, bein shelo ladas, whether the owner was aware that sheepy was gone or not, minyan poter. If the owner does a roll call and all of the sheep are present, are accounted for, the guy is off the hook. And if anything happens to sheepy at that point, from that point on, the guy is potter. Because the owner did roll call and all the sheep were accounted for. Katone umanu v'hishlema. And when the Mishnah says that the owner does roll call and all the sheep are accounted for And at that point, the guy is potter. Right? So potter, akula, it's talking about in any scenario, whether the owner was aware that sheepy had gone missing, whether the owner was unaware that sheepy had gone missing. Once he does roll call and all the sheep are there, the guy is potter. Opinion number 3 out of 4. Rabbi Yochanan Omer, says Rabbi Yochanan, Lada'as minyan poter, that if the owner was aware that sheepy went missing, so then when he does roll call and all of the sheep are accounted for, so at that point the guy is off the hook. Shaloladas, if the owner was never aware that sheepy went missing, right? The guy stole sheepy, returned sheepy, the owner never realized. Well, then afilu minyan nami lo tzarich, then even roll call is unnecessary, and if the guy stole and returned sheepy without the owner ever noticing, if anything then happens to sheepy, the guy will be off the hook, even if the owner had never subsequently done roll call. And when the Mishnah talks about if the owner does roll call and all the sheep are there, then the guy is off the hook. That is when the owner had realized that sheepy was gone. A reisha, it's going on the reisha of the Mishnah when the owner had realized. Rav Chizde Omar, and the fourth and final opinion is that of Rav Chizde, Lada'as minyan poter, that when the owner had realized that sheepy went missing, so then if he counts, then the guy is off the hook, just like Rabbi Yochanan had said. The difference between them is when it comes to when the owner was unaware that sheepy went missing. Shelo ladas tzarich das. Says Rav Chizde that if the owner was unaware that sheepy had ever gone missing, the guy needs to tell the owner that sheepy had gone missing and that he had returned sheepy. And when the Mishnah says that if the owner counts the sheep and does roll call and all sheep are accounted for, so then the guy is potter, areisha, that is referring to the first part of the Mishnah, when the owner was aware that sheepy had gone missing. Wow. Okay. Four-way machlokas. Now we're going to kind of drill down in to this four-way machlokas. Amar Rave, says Rave, my time of Rav Chizde. What's pshat with Rav Chizde? Right, Rav Chizde, I think at first glance seems to be the most interesting opinion. Right, he seems to be like sort of, I would think that when the owner is aware that sheepy has gone missing, that would be sort of a more stringent case than when he was oblivious. Right, meaning in the scenario where the guy steals sheepy, returns sheepy, the owner never, what if we call him owner instead of the owner? That's nice. Owner, I like that. Owner, yeah, we got the guy, sheepy, owner. This is coming together. It's a very beautiful story. So again, I would think that if owner was oblivious the whole time, didn't realize sheepy was gone, didn't realize sheepy's back, so I would think like, okay, just live and let live, right? But no, Rav Chizde says, Davka, in that case, the guy, maybe let's call him Guy. Guy, that's nice. Guy, sheepy, and owner. Wow. This is a very good story. So where were we again? So Rav Chizde says no. When owner was oblivious to everything, Davka, in that matzav, in that case, Guy needs to go to owner and tell him, by the way, you should know, I know that you don't know, but you should know, I had stolen sheepy, but I returned sheepy. So my time with Rav Chizda, how come Rav Chizda says that when owner is completely oblivious, guy needs to tell him? My time with Rav Chizda, Hoyil ve'ankito nagre varyosa. The reason is, it's a very interesting answer. The reason is because owner has a right to know that one of his sheep, he should expect perhaps some unexpected behavior from one of his sheep, because one of his sheep now has been exposed to the outside world, has been exposed to life outside of the flock, and might sort of have a mind of its own. And therefore, guy has a responsibility to let owner know that, even though, because owner is completely oblivious, owner had no clue that sheepy went missing or that sheepy was returned. All of a sudden he's going to have one sheep who's like causing trouble and, wandering off with a mind of its own. Owner will be completely unexpected. And therefore, guy has a responsibility to tell owner that he had stolen the sheep and returned sheepy, and that he should keep an extra eye on sheepy, because sheepy might now have a mind of its own. Now, would Rav really say this? Would Rav really say this? But Rav says, if you have an owner who sees a guy take a sheep from his flock, virome beikala, and the owner of the flock shouts at the guy, vishaje, and the guy, I think, releases the sheep, I think. Vilo yada ihadre lo hadre, and the owner of the flock wasn't sure. I don't know, it seems like a weird story, but I think basically what's happening is the owner of the flock saw that somebody was stealing from his flock. He yelled at the guy kind of returned it, but I think the owner was not really sure if he actually returned the sheep or not. So it's a scenario where he was aware that the sheep went missing, vames onignov, and then the sheep, let's just call the sheepy again, and then sheepy died or got stolen. Chayav b'achrayuso, guy, the thief, is going to be responsible. My love, and what's this talking about? Afagav, the money. Even though he had counted the sheep. So meaning, we wanted to explain that pshat with the Rav Chizda is that we wanted to explain that pshat with Rav Chizda is that if the owner is aware that the sheep was gone, so then counting alone should suffice. And yet we want to say that in this scenario where the guy was stealing the sheep and then he got caught, and so the owner knew about it, we want to say that even though the owner had counted the sheep, still the thief would be chayav if the sheep dies or gets stolen. Low money. No, it's talking about where the owner had not counted it. Because the owner had not counted it, that is why the thief is going to be on the hook. Rav Hochi, would Rav really say that when the owner is aware that the sheep went gone, so then the thief needs to tell the owner about it, and it's not enough for the owner to count it? Rav, but Rav says, that if the thief returns the sheep to the flock in the middle of the desert, meaning, and he's not letting the owner know that he returned it, and the owner is not necessarily even counting it, I think. Right, so what does that say? And that seems to be enough. So, Yotza. So, Rav Chanan Bar Abba Moderab Birakuosos. So says Rav Chana bar Abba, well, that's a unique case, because I was talking about a situation where the sheep was spotted and it was uniquely designed, and therefore in that case there wouldn't. So even without sort of letting him know or without doing a official counting, I guess that the owner would recognize that the sheep is back. Okay. Lema kitanoi. Let's say it's like a machlekes tanoim. Okay, let's see. Hagonev tolim in a eder. Somebody who steals a sheep from a flock, v'selam en akis, or a coin from, I think it's like a wallet, from like a purse. Let's say a purse. So somebody steals a sheep from a flock or a coin from a purse. Lemakom shegonav yachzir divrei Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Akiva omer tzarich das bailim. Okay, so again, so Agonif Tolim in a Eder, somebody who steals a sheep from a flock, Meselam in a kis, or a coin from a purse, Lemakom Shegonav Yachzu de Rabbi Shmuel. So Bishmuel says, okay, just return it to where you took it from. You don't have to let the owner know, just return it. Rabbi Akiva Omer says, Rabbi Akiva, Tzarech das bailim, that you have to let the guy know. It's not enough. You have to let the guy know. Now, Savur de Chule Alma is Lehu the Rabbi Yitzchok, and we're assuming that everybody holds of Rabbi Yitzchok. Dam Rabbi Yitzchok says Rabbi Yitzchok Odom Osui Lemashmesh Bekiso Bechosho Uwa, that a person counts his money all the time. That a person is going to check his wallet, his purse. He knows how much is in there at all times, so he's counting all the time. Okay, so the point is, we've been discussing this. I don't know if it's a distinction, but sort of counting your flock, or in this case, your money, and also the requirement to inform the owner that stuff went missing and has been returned. So the assumption is that in terms of counting, when it comes to the purse at least, a person is counting all the time, and he has counted his money and he knows how much is there. So again, so savur de chuli alma islu de Rabbi Yitzchok dam Rabbi Yitzchok odom osu lemashmish bekiso bechosho my lab beselo ladas uveflukta de Rav Shmuel. So therefore, when it comes to the money, the assumption is that the owner has been counting the money. He knows how much is there. And the machlokas between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, when it comes to the money, is be'etzim can be divided like Rav and Shmuel. Rav says that counting is not enough when he's aware, which he is aware because he's counting all the time. So counting would not be enough. Rav would say that you would have to tell the owner, like Rabbi Akiva, who says that it needs das, and Rabbi Shmuel, who says no, he counted it, he's aware, he knows that it was missing, he knows that it's back. You don't need to. The thief doesn't have to tell the owner anymore. That would be like Shmuel, who says counting is enough. Now bitole shelo ladas, and when it comes to the sheep, where he's not counting the flock in the same way that he counts his money, so he doesn't know that the sheep went missing or was returned or anything like that, and so when it comes to Bayatole Shelo Ladas, and we're saying, do you have to tell him or not? So that's the machlokas between Rabbi Yochanan and Rav Chizda. When we looked at Rav Chizda, Rabbi Yochanan, that Rabbi Yochanan would say that you wouldn't have to tell the owner, and that would be Yochanan, and Rav Chizda would say that you would have to tell the owner. Omer Rav Zvid Mishmei Derove says, Rav Zvid Mishmei Derove, you have to play around with the words a little bit. Begone Merushus Bailim, when it comes to if you steal from an owner, so like a sheep from an owner, Kuli Amalo Plige Kid Rav Chizda, everyone would agree, like Rav Chizda, that you have to let the owner know that you stole and then returned his sheep, so that he knows to beware that Sheepy might be acting out of character. V'hacha b'shomer shegonav merishuso v'hichzir l'makom shegonav kamiflagi. And here we're talking about. Wait, what's the thing? Okay. Did I read that right? Shehichzir l'makom shegonav kamiflagi. I think what it's talking about is you have. I think is that you have a shomer, a custodian, who's watching like a sheep, and then he decides, I guess he's going to steal it. I think then he changes his mind and then decides he's not going to steal it. He puts it back. So in that scenario, that's where the machlokas is. Does he have a responsibility to tell the owner of the sheep that he had stolen it but returned it, all while he was acting as a custodian? Rabbi Kiva savar kol solo shmira. So Rabbi Kiva holds that once he stole it, his shmira kind of ends, and he can't just like return it at the end of the custodianship and all is good. No, he would have to tell the owner what happened. Rabbi Shmuel savar lo kol solo shmira. Whereas Rabbi Shmuel says no, don't worry about it. It was all during the terms of his custodianship. He was guarding it. He was guarding it at the beginning. He was ultimately guarding it at the end. He returned it. All good. You don't need to inform the owner that in the middle you had stolen it but then returned it. I think that's shot. Alright, I'm going to drink a little more coffee. How much do I have left? Alright. Sorry for the low energy. It's just I don't want to start screaming and yelling. The people, they probably wouldn't mind, but I feel like it's not so nice. Alright. Where are we? Though we might be having to do these low-key babble on Talmuds for the next week or so. Low-key babble on Talmuds, low-key babbles. Cheve, let me tell you, Bava Metzia, not poshut. Bava Metzia is not poshut. Not poshut at all. Not poshut at all. Cheve. Shnai Merchs and Betalis, I think, is way harder than BavaKama. Cheve, what are we going to do? You up for it? You up for the challenge? Shnai Merchs and Betalis? Am I up for the challenge? We'll have to see. Oh my gosh. Cheve, is that going to be it? Is Bava Metzia going to do in Babylon Talmud? It was a good run. It was a good run until Bava Metzia. That was the end of Babylon Talmud. Shnai Moichs and Betalis. Alright. Lema. Minyan Poter. So let's say that we got through Yevamis. Alright, let's go weiter. We have a daf to finish. Lema Minyan Poter. Tanoihi. So let's say that whether counting makes you potter is a machlokas tanoim. The Tanya is learned by Zagoizel as chaveru v'evlielo b'cheshbon. Okay, a fellow who steals from his friend. So, like, I think, let's say this. I don't know. Let's use this as an example. Shimon owns a store. It's called Shimon's Store. It's like a good name for a store. Akuponim. So Ruvain goes into Shimon's store and steals epis, shoplifts, piece of bubble gum. Ruvain goes into Shimon's store and he steals a piece of bubble gum. Ruvain then comes into the store the next day, feeling a little bit bad, and he buys. What does he buy? What does he buy? Who could tell me? What does he buy at the store? What does he buy at the store? What do you buy at a store? I don't know. What do you buy at a store? I don't know. What do you buy at a store? Peanut butter. You buy peanut butter at a store. Yeah, peanut butter. So then he goes and he buys peanut butter, and so the bubble gum that he stole cost 25 cents. The peanut butter cost, how much does peanut butter cost? I don't know, $5? Why not? So he pays him $5.25. And he sneaks in the extra amount, so he pays him back kazeh. You got it? So many agozlas chaveru. So Reuven stole a piece of bubble gum, and now he wants to return it, but he also doesn't really want to tell Shimon, he doesn't really want to admit to Shimon that he stole from him. So Reuven's can't I just return the money and sneak it in there, get it off my conscience? I'll just give him the extra 25 cents when I buy my peanut butter, and I'll slip out into the night, and I returned it. Leave me alone, right? Do I really have to tell Shimon that I stole from him? So Reuven stole a piece of bubble gum, and then the next day he goes to Shimon's store and he buys peanut butter and just pays an extra 25 cents and doesn't explain for what, and just slips it in there and leaves. So Tanichada Yotze. So one opinion is, okay, say whatever. He stole 25 cents, he repaid the 25 cents, goes on with his life and he's fine. Tani Idach, but another Brisa says, Lo Yotze. That no, that is not enough. You would have to tell him. You have to tell Shimon. You have to look him in the eyes and say, Shimon, I stole a piece of bubblegum. I'd like to repay you. And now the assumption is that everybody holds like Rabbi Yitzchok. Everybody agrees like Rabbi Yitzchok that Shimon is always checking out how much money he has. Therefore, he's aware that a piece of bubblegum went missing. So he counted his stock. He knows that something didn't add up. So my lab, so it's that the machlokas is, so meaning, and therefore, when Reuven pays for the peanut butter and slips in an extra 25 cents, so Shimon was aware that he was missing 25 cents, and he's aware that he now has his 25 cents. So in terms of counting, Shimon's been doing all the counting. The Mandamar Yotza, that the Mandamar who says, okay, Reuven's off the hook, Sover Minyan Poter, holds that counting is enough. Shimon had counted, he has what he needs. Reuven's off the hook. Mandamar Lo Yotza, Sover Minyan Eno Poter. And Reuven, and the opinion who says that it's not enough, holds that counting is not enough. Reuven would have to tell him, hey Shimon, I stole from you, but I've returned it. Amri isvir lon kirib Yitzchok kuli amalo pligi t'minyan poter. So the Gemara wants to say, I don't know about that. Look, if everybody agreed with Rabbi Yitzchok that a person is counting all the time and knows what he has, well then Reuven wouldn't have to say anything to Shimon. Shimon would know that he lost the 25 cents, that he's got it back, and Reuven's off the hook. That punkt, the machlekes is, do we hold of Rabbi Yitzchak or not? That is a person going to be counting? Because Reuven's only off the hook if Shimon counts. But maybe not everybody agrees that people are counting all the time. So the BavaKama holds of Rabbi Yitzchok and assumes that Shimon is counting, and therefore Reuven's off the hook. Umar leisle to Rabbi Yitzchok. And the other opinion does not hold of Rabbi Yitzchok, and therefore we can't assume that Shimon was counting, and therefore Reuven needs to tell him what happened. Alternatively, everybody does hold of Rabbi Yitzchok, velokasha had the money viromale bikise for the money viromale diode. Well, it depends if Reuven is putting the money in Shimon's purse or putting it in Shimon's hand. If he's putting it in Shimon's hand, he might just take it and put it someplace and not realize. But if he's putting it in Shimon's purse, well then Shimon kind of counts the money there, and he would realize that it was missing and that it's back. Alternatively, the money both scenarios are talking about where Reuven puts the money in Shimon's purse. But it depends what else is in that purse. If he's got other money in there, so then he might not, might get confused or might not realize exactly what it is. But if there's no other money in there, so then Shimon would know what it is, and he would know that he got paid back, and Reuven would be off the hook. All right, that was really exciting stuff. Next Mishnah. In lokhin min haroim semer v'cholov v'gdim. You can't purchase from a shepherd wool or milk or goats. Okay? Because the concern is that the wool or the milk or the goats does not belong to him, and it's not his to sell. And you cannot purchase from a custodian of fruits wood and fruits, because he might be selling somebody else's wood and fruits. But we may purchase from the women woolen garments, and in Judah, and flax garments in the Galilee, because that's like kind of what they do around there, and it makes sense that like they're just selling the family stuff, and it's theirs to sell, and they're in the position to sell it. And I guess that they could sell calves in the Sharon, because also that would be like a normal thing to kind of sell, and would be expected. Because the concern, I guess, is like, are they empowered to kind of sell this stuff, or would their husbands not want them to sell it? Now, in any of these cases, if like they're being shady about it, and they're being like, hey, keep it on the DL, then I'm selling you this stuff, then you can't buy it for them, because then that's a red flag. And you can purchase eggs and chickens anywhere. Okay. You can always buy chickens and eggs. Okie dokie. Tana Rabbanan, the Rabbi said, "In lokhin min haroim lo izim v'lo gdim v'lo gizin." We don't purchase from shepherds, not goats, not kids, not shearings, v'lo tlushin shel tzemer, and not, wool that became detached on its own, I think. Avalokhin mein tfurin, but you can purchase from them like sewn stuff. Like, I guess if they took like wool and made it into like threads and like sewed stuff, because then that would be a shinoi maise. So even if they stole it, there would be like a shinoi maise. So there would be a kinyan, and then technically it's a sale. Mipnei shein shaloim, because it would belong to them. V'lokhin mein cholav ugvina bamidbar. And you can purchase from them milk and cheese in the desert, because these are things that the owner can't really, if they're out in the desert, like the owner can't really do anything with these things. V'lo bayishu, but not in the town, because there the owner can do stuff with that. V'lokhin, meaning I imagine that the owner is in the town and the shepherd is out in the desert, and there's like milk there, so like the milk is just going to go bad, so you can buy it from him there. But in the town, well, then it belongs to the owner. V'lokhin mein dalid v'hei tzon, and you can purchase from the shepherds 4 or 5 sheep. Dalid v'hei gizin, or 4 or 5. I don't know. I think they're probably like clumps of wool or something. Shearings. Avalo shtei tzon v'lo shtei gizin, but not 2 sheep or 2 shearings, because we're concerned that maybe he's not authorized to sell it. If he's selling like a whole bunch of stuff, so then the assumption is, well, he wouldn't just be able to get away with selling a whole bunch of stuff. So it must be that he's authorized to sell it. But if he's just selling like 1 or 2, then we'd be like, I don't know, are you trying to get away with this? Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, Rabbi Yehuda, Baisos lokhin mein midbarios in lokhin mein. Says Rabbi Yehuda that maybe like domesticated, like home animals you can buy from them, but not midbarios, not desert animals, because like desert animals are like less like significant. I mean, I guess the baisos are more significant. So again, he wouldn't really be able to get away with selling those. If he's selling them, he must be allowed to sell them. Whereas these midbarios, he might be trying to just like do it under the radar. Klal shaldover, the general rule is, the principle is, kol sharoe mocher uval abayis margish bo lokhin mein. look, if the shepherd is selling something that the owner would realize is missing, so you can purchase that because, you can assume that since the owner is going to realize, he must have permission to do it. Ein magish bo, but if he's selling something that the owner would not necessarily realize, well, then maybe he's trying to be dishonest and try to get away with selling stuff and hoping that the owner wouldn't realize. Ein lo and then you cannot purchase from the shepherd. Omar, we said lo mean dalad veheitzon dalad vehegizin. We said that you can purchase from the shepherd 4 or 5 sheep or 4 or 5 shearings. So now 1 second. So if we're saying that you can purchase from them 4 sheep, well then shouldn't you obviously be able to buy 5? Wait, what? What? Oh yeah, of course, exactly. That's the whole point, right? Meaning, because the whole point is that the lower the number, the shadier it is. So if you're allowed to sell 4, buy 4 from him, certainly you should be able to sell 5, which is a more noticeable number. So Rav Chisda, I bought mitoch chamisha. So Rav Chisda says what it means is 4 out of 5, meaning if he's selling 80% of the flock, so you can purchase that because that's such a large amount that he would not be able to sell that without having permission from the owner. Those who say, from a small flock, so then he would be able to sell, so then 4 would be considered significant enough. From a larger flock, then 5 would be considered significant enough. Hagufa kasha. Now this is the question. On the one hand, Amart, you said dalad vehei tzon, dalad vehei gizin. On the one hand, you're saying 4 or 5 sheep, 4 or 5 shearings. Dalad vehei in, aval shalosh lo. So only if it's 4 or 5, but 3 would be too little. But ema safe. But then we say avalo shtei tzon, but not 2 sheep. Hashalosh zavninon, but 3 would be enough. Lo kasha, it's no problem. Holbi bar yoso, holbi kishta. It depends. If they are healthy, so then so if they're healthy, so then 3 would be considered significant enough for the owner to realize. If they are not healthy, so then it would have to be then it would be the 4 or 5. Okay, fine. Okay, let's go on. Let's go weiter. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Baisos lokhin mein, midbarios in lokhin mein. Chules Rabbi Yehuda had said they can purchase from them the Baisos ones, but not the midbarios ones, because the Baisos ones are more significant. Is Rabbi Yehuda going on the Reisha and being more stringent, or on the Sefer and being more lenient? Is he going on the Reisha and he's being more stringent to Omar, that he says Lochin mein arba v'achmisha tzon, that when it says that you can purchase 4 or 5 sheep, hanimile baisos, those are specifically the baisos ones, the more expensive ones, 4 or 5. Aval midbarius afil arba v'achmisha lo, but the midbarius, then even 4 or 5 you can't, because you won't recognize it, you won't notice those, right? Meaning it requires 4 or 5 of the baisos ones, which are more significant. But the midbarios, even 4 or 5, not, because they're not super significant, and we have to be concerned that the balabais won't realize. Or maybe he's going on the seifa and he's being more lenient to Omar, that he's saying avalo shtei tzon velo shtei gizin, that when it says that he cannot sell 2 sheep or 2 shearings, hanimile midbarios, those are specifically midbarios of al baisos. But if they are baisos shtaim nami lokhin, then 2 would be acceptable, right? But the midbarios ones, which are less significant, so then 2 we're concerned that the owner won't realize. But if they're baisos, which are more significant, then maybe it would be okay. Where am I? Tashma de Tanya, we learn about Rabbi Yehuda Omer says, Rabbi Yehuda lokhin baisos mehen vein lokhin mehen midbarios. You can purchase the baisos, but not the midbarios. Uvachol makom, and no matter what, lokhin mehen arba v'achmisha tzon, in all scenarios you can purchase 4 or 5 sheep. From the fact that we said in any scenario you can purchase 4 or 5 sheep, meaning whether they're midbarios, whether they're baisos, you could sell 4 or 5. So therefore, to say that it's stringent and that you would say that by midbarios even 4 or 5 no, that doesn't seem to be the scenario, and therefore it must be that he's being lenient and saying that when we say that 2 is not allowed, that's specifically by midbarios, but for by baisos it would be acceptable. Okay, I think that was a really long daf. Was that over an hour? Oh my goodness gracious. These dafs are getting crazy. Let me tell you, Bava Metzia is not going to be easy. Peace out.